Good morning, everyone. It's Monday, May 18th. I'm Stephanie Haney. This is 3 News Now, your early update, where we bring you the top headlines from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. We're getting ready to start the week off, and it was quite the weekend here in Northeast Ohio as patios were able to reopen for the first time since they've been shut down 2 months ago. Lots of drama surrounding that. We are going to dive into that and give you an idea of what was happening specifically up here in Northeast Ohio, but also down in Columbus and all over the state and how people are reacting. First, though, we're going to start with the latest numbers on COVID-19 that are released daily from the Ohio Department of Health. These numbers that we're talking about right now came in yesterday, Sunday, May 17th at 2 p.m. So we'll take a look at how things have changed since we last talked here on Friday. So as of 2 p.m. yesterday, according to the Ohio Department of Health, now remember, these are the expanded CDC definition numbers, so not only positive test cases of COVID-19, but also probable cases of COVID-19, and the same goes for the deaths when we talk about these numbers. So as of yesterday at 2 p.m., there were a total of 20,923 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the state of Ohio. That is since we first learned of COVID-19 being present in Ohio on March 9th. So that's the total number that we've had. Those aren't the total number of cases right now. We're going to talk about the number of current hospitalizations in just a moment. But that number does represent an increase of 969 new cases over the total weekend. So yesterday, we saw 449 new cases. Now, these numbers have gone down for the past several days. Saturday, we saw 520 new cases, and Friday, we saw 597 new cases. So going down over the past couple of days there in terms of number of new cases. Also going down in terms of we're up a little bit in numbers of new deaths yesterday on Sunday. The total number of deaths for COVID-19 in the state of Ohio is now 1,625. So we saw a total of 44 new deaths over the weekend. These are a lot of numbers, so let me break this down. I misspoke earlier. 44 new deaths total over the weekend. Yesterday, we saw 15 new deaths, so that number is going down. We saw 47 new deaths on Friday. We saw 29 new reported deaths on Saturday, 15 new reported deaths on Sunday. So number of new cases and number of new deaths also dropping down over the weekend. We'll update that information when we get those new numbers at 2 p.m. Now, when we look at the total number of hospitalizations, the total number of hospitalizations for COVID-19 since we first learned of it being here in Ohio in March has been 4,921. Now, keep in mind, we do now know, thanks to antibody testing, that COVID-19 was in Ohio as early as January. And here's a number that's important to keep in mind. The number of people who are currently hospitalized right now, active hospitalizations, is 914. So of those, we've got about a fifth of those people who are currently actively hospitalized. And that is the number of hospitalizations increased by 130 over the weekend. In terms of ICU case admissions, the number is now 1,305, and there are now 343 people in the ICU. So about a third of the people who are hospitalized right now are in the ICU. And over the weekend, we saw 28 new ICU admissions. Now, this weekend was a big weekend in Northeast Ohio as restaurant patios were able to reopen. We did see some rain on Friday and Sunday, and then some rain also on Saturday, but Saturday was a big day for these businesses. Lots of people piling into places. We do have reports that many places were observing the proper physical distancing protocols, but some definitely were not. So Governor Mike Dewine said yesterday that we will do whatever we have to do to enforce safety measures for businesses. If bars and restaurants cannot keep crowds away from each other more than 6 feet apart to contain the spread of COVID-19. Dewine pointed out a very effective tool that the state has at its disposal if businesses do not comply with the physical distancing protocols, and that is their liquor license. He says they will lose their liquor license and that the state does not want to go around and be social police, but they will do what they have to do in order to ensure the proper physical distancing protocols are put in place. A couple of the places who got a lot of attention this weekend for having patios that were packed and some people even indoors at locations, not limiting things just to their patio. LAGO in the Flats East Bank, TOWNHALL in Ohio City, up here in Northeast Ohio in the Cleveland area, and then Standard Hall in the Short North in Columbus. Governor Mike Dewine was on CNN's State of the Union last night, and he said that the good news is that the ownership did seem to get things under control. He was talking specifically about Standard Hall in the Short North, but his press secretary, Dan Tierney, said that for businesses who are disregarding safety guidelines, those people are being irresponsible, and they need to understand that the guidelines will be enforced and that liquor license is one mechanism that will be used in order to do that. Tierney did also say, though, that most Ohio bars and restaurants did their part to follow best practices to keep people safe and distance. And the Ohio Restaurant Association also wrote in an email to its members on Saturday that these are isolated incidents and not necessarily reflective of the industry's overall positive response to reopening safely. So let's take a look at the specific responses that some business owners here in Northeast Ohio had to patios being pretty packed this weekend. One restaurant owner said that it was too much too fast. This is Rick Duty, who is the owner of Lindy's Lake House in the East Bank of the Flats. He says that they don't want to be ignorant and they understand where the physical distancing protocols are coming from. But at one point over the weekend, Lindy's Lake House in the Flats, that patio was shoulder to shoulder, and police actually had to come and disperse the crowd because it was not complying with the physical distancing guidelines. So Duty said they kind of got thrown into it and it was too much too fast, and he took a look at his restaurant and realizes that they can do a better job. But what's ironic about that situation is that Duty was on the Ohio Commission, which advised Governor Mike Dewine on reopening outdoor dining spaces. In hindsight, Duty says now that he wishes that more specifics had been provided to businesses, and it needed to be more definitive. And also, restaurants were never supposed to be in the situation of self-policing. That is very difficult, he said, and some people are definitely going to do a better job at it than others. The representatives for LAGO East Bank taking a very different approach in their response. They did say, after videos and photos, and I also personally saw the patio situation at LAGO East Bank this weekend while I was walking my dog, and it was pretty busy for a significant amount of time. So in a press release, LAGO said they believe that they're able to provide a safe environment for all guests. The pictures are one moment, one angle, 1 second of time. So I specifically bring up the comment that I was personally able to see the patio situation at LAGO because I can tell you that it was more than 1 second of time. It was more than one angle, and it was more than one moment. I was in the area for a significant amount of time, and while I was down there, it was pretty busy. The restaurant also mentioned that LAGO is not an enforcement agency and called the task to mandate guest actions largely unrealistic and exceedingly difficult. They also said that they are committed to the health and safety of their workers and the community, and they'll continue to provide their guests the best dining experience possible while making sure best practices and guidelines are followed. This is a direct quote from their statement. "We were operating at a limit capacity for 2 months, and we were excited to welcome back our guests. The recent criticism certainly does not reflect the additional precautions that we implemented that go far beyond the governor's guidelines, but we understand and will continue to adjust as necessary." That's the latest from LAGO on the situation there. Lots of videos, lots of photos circulating specifically related to that area. Town Hall in Ohio City coming under fire for something slightly different, and there were video and photos of people at Town Hall actually inside the restaurant, not limiting the space to just the patio, and also closer than 6 feet apart. But the general manager, Ryan Hartzell, is facing backlash over posting a racist comment. The comment was posted to an account that is associated with the name Ryan Hartzell. So a Facebook user had posted a comment saying, "Imagine risking your life just to eat at Town Hall," talking about people being closer than 6 feet apart, which of course is the distance that we've been told by medical experts we need to keep in order to stop the spread of COVID-19. So then the account associated with Hartzell wrote, "Imagine risking your life driving a car, walking downstairs, crossing the street, playing in the rain, swimming, hiking, biking, running, sleeping, eating unhealthy foods, being negative, living in fear." And then, after a few more exchanges, went on to say, "We all risk our lives every day on different levels, regardless of the virus. Stop with the fear mongering. If you hate this country so much, go back to the one you came from, which is a well-known, long-standing racist trope. So the account associated with Hartzell posted that comment on the user's page, who initially posted, "Imagine risking your life just to eat at Town Hall." Now, the comment has since been deleted, and 3 News did reach out to Town Hall, but have not yet heard back regarding the comment. In other restaurant news, some restaurants might be adding a COVID charge to your bill. This is because food costs are reportedly rising, and we've all seen it. We've been to the grocery store, we've seen the cost of eggs rising, we've seen the cost of other items rising, and that is not limited to just the individual purchases. That's also something that's being felt by the restaurant industry. So the charge on the bill is very clear. It's labeled as an additional COVID-19 charge. Some people say they are happy to support these businesses, and they do understand that the cost of eating out will be higher than the cost of eating at home, and it is a luxury. And if you're able to support small businesses, you know, it's good that they know going in that this surcharge is being added. Now, others, however, said that it should be up to customers to be more generous with the tipping. But I want to make a point here that that's a different thing. So a restaurant adding a COVID upcharge puts the money in a different pocket than tipping more generously on the bill. If you tip more generously on the bill, that tip is going to go to the service worker who has served you, who has put your carryout order together, who has served you at your patio space with those safe physical distancing guidelines in place. A food upcharge, a COVID-19 upcharge on the bill will go to the establishment, to the owner, for operation costs and those kinds of things, potentially to help them bring more employees in and pay those salaries. But 2 different things there. So keep that in mind if you are of that mind that that's money going in 2 different topics, 2 different pockets. It's just not quite the same thing. Some more good news related to a potential COVID-19 vaccine. Moderna Inc. says that early results are positive in terms of what they're doing to develop a vaccine. The company says an experimental coronavirus vaccine caused immune responses in volunteers who were said to be healthy in a clinical study. So this is very early testing. It's led by the U.S. National Institutes of Health, and this vaccine, this potential vaccine, triggered hoped for immune responses in 8 healthy middle-aged volunteers. So what happened was they were given the injection, and then they did generate antibodies, which are similar to what we see in people who have recovered from COVID-19 in the study volunteers when they were given either a low or a medium dose. So next up in that study, researchers will try to determine what dose is best for the definitive experiment, which is what they hope to start in July. Moderna Inc. says so far that the vaccine does seem safe. A high-dose version is being dropped, though, after spurring some short-term side effects. So they're looking at just the low and the medium doses right now. Worldwide, there are about a dozen vaccine candidates that are in the early stages of testing or nearing the early stages of testing as we look to find a COVID-19 vaccine across the globe. All right, we're going to talk about a little bit of sports news. As you know, The Last Dance has been airing, and we saw one of those additional episodes over the weekend, dropping on Sunday. ESPN conducted a poll pitting Michael Jordan against LeBron James. And according to that ESPN poll, Michael Jordan did better than LeBron James in every single category, in 17 different categories. So it was a survey of 600 people, and it was broken down into 2 age groups, 18 to 34 and 35 and older. So in the older, 35 and older group, Jordan led by almost 4-1. And in the younger group, Jordan led by 2-1 across the board in 17 different categories. So some of those categories were best sneaker for fashion, best sneaker for playing ball, pick for the game-winning shot, being able to come through in the clutch, just watching the gameplay, spectacular watching of the gameplay, the top pick to start their own team, best offensive player, and best player overall. So some comments that I did see on social media I thought brought up a good point about this, though. Other people who are in the LeBron James camp did say that they weren't particularly worried about Michael Jordan being favored right now because that docuseries did just come out, so everybody's sort of high on the Michael Jordan history right now, and that eventually when a LeBron James docuseries comes out related to his basketball play, that they expect the same kind of a result because of all that information coming at us, all those emotions coming back, all those memories coming back from watching that play all that time. So if you want to see more about that, if you want to see more about any of these stories, head to WKYC.com and our WKYC app. That's it for your early update with 3 News Now. I'll be back here at 2 p.m. as soon as we get those updated numbers in from the Ohio Department of Health. I'm Stephanie Haney. I'll see you back in a little bit.